In my car, oh hello by the way, I have a feature called speed limiter. You switch this on and the car will read the speed signs along the road and it will restrict the car's top speed according to the current speed limit. So if you're travelling through towns where the speed limits are 30 miles an hour, it will prevent you going over that speed. Brilliant! Well, this all sounds good and prevents you getting a speeding ticket, except it's not good. Not always. See, the modern car is just a computer, and unfortunately, computers get it wrong sometimes. So sometimes when I'm doing 40 miles an hour in an area that allows this, and the speed limiter is on, sometimes the car will suddenly decide it's not 40 in this 40 miles an hour zone, but instead it thinks this is now a 30 mile an hour zone, and therefore slams on the brakes to reduce my speed. This is not a good feeling. It scares me, and it probably scares the driver behind me too. That's automation failing. It's got it wrong. It's still 40 miles an hour on that road and the car is mucked up. So to solve this, I've changed a setting in the car's menu. I can switch off the ability for the car to read the signs, but still be able to activate the speed limiter. I have to do this myself now though. I have to switch the speed limiter on when I hit 40 miles an hour in the 40 miles an hour zone, and once set, the car won't let me go any faster than that set speed. So this has now become semi-automation. I'm not leaving it all for the car to do. I'm setting the rules now and it's all good again. So what has all this got to do with photography? Well, quite a lot actually, as essentially cameras are also computers. They, like my car, can get things wrong sometimes if left to their own devices. So I need to have some input. Automation is good in theory and is there to alleviate any unnecessary work for us, and in our photography is useful so that we can get on with the important picture taking process. But the camera is just a tool. It can assist me, but I need to know it's working with me at all times. So a modern digital camera can do all the hard work for me if I want it to. It can focus, it can measure the light, it can set the exposure, it can take a picture, lots of them in a row if I want, and most of the time it will produce a great result. Most of the time. Sometimes though, it can get it wrong. It can fail, just like I can really, but I would prefer to know that any failure in an image result was down to me and not because I was relying on the camera. So I need the camera to work with me. Together, we can work as a team. So how do we do this? Well, here's my automations or my semi-automations. Now, I never used to use Auto ISO, not until I upgraded to the Olympus EM1 Mark II, as the previous models didn't have enough settings for me to use it with confidence. With this new Olympus model, I could now tell the camera what I wanted, but more importantly, when I wanted it, or when it should change, should I say. So I can set a lower and upper limit of the ISO, say 200 at the lower end and 3200 ISO at the upper limit. All's good. But wait, when should it start to change? When does it come off 200 ISO and go to say 400? Well, not until I say so. I know I can shoot at 1/8 of a second handheld with my camera. I can shoot handheld at this speed and get a sharp result. So unless some other factor comes into play, I'm happy to stay at 200 ISO until I get down to 1/8 of a second. Now if the light levels get too low for that, well, that's when a change needs to be made. Then and only then would I want the camera to up the ISO to 400, a stop faster. And because the Auto ISO is now more advanced, I can program the camera to abide by this rule. Great, we're both on the same page. We're working as a team. It's all good. And this is semi-automation working. If it was total automation, the camera may increase the ISO even if I had only reached 1/60th of a second. Therefore introduce more noise into my image than is necessary. This is because the camera has been set like this by the manufacturers for average Joe. I'm not average Joe, I'm average Craig. Now this is semi-automation. It's a semi-automatic exposure mode. It's one step away from full program mode and one step closer to full manual. Program mode is like that older version of auto ISO. The camera does all the thinking. It acts and responds to a situation just as it's been programmed to. It's trying to cope with every situation and do its best. And it probably does a good job most of the time. But for me, who's more critical, it might not be good enough. So for convenience and semi-automation, I go with aperture priority or shutter priority. They're both very similar, of course. I choose the aperture and the camera matches it with a suitable shutter speed for correct exposure. It knows my lowest choice of shutter speed from the Auto ISO menu, so can work within the range that I have set to assist me. I don't need full manual all of the time, but program mode isn't reliable enough to allow the camera full automation. Now, matrix metering, or evaluative metering, is the advanced metering mode we've all got accustomed to using now. It measures the whole scene and bases its exposure calculation on the range of factors. Set it, forget it, and leave that for the camera to work the exposure out. But it gets this wrong sometimes. Matrix metering can get confused or can try too hard sometimes. So I have to step in here too. I treat it as a semi-automatic metering mode. If there are strong shadows in the scene, I have to tell the camera to override its default setting as it wants to record detail in those shadow areas. Let's keep those strong shadows and use them to enhance this next result. And I do that with the exposure compensation dial. Usually -2/3 exposure comp if you want to know. Use the exposure compensation for semi-automation, it's all good again. My fourth automation then is the focusing, autofocus. Who takes control of the focusing, me or the camera? Surely this is full automation these days. Well, with the camera on a tripod, it's often best to manually focus. The camera can easily autofocus on the wrong spot if you're not careful. So turn off the AF and take control of that yourself. But as I don't really use a tripod these days, I'm happy to go with autofocus most of the time. Though of course, you've guessed it, not fully automated AF, but instead semi-automated AF. So if I left the autofocus entirely to the camera, it can do this with ease. My camera has, I don't know, how many focus points? I don't know, to be honest, 199 maybe? How many does your camera have? Do you know? Well, I know mine has lots of them that cover the main viewing area. So with all these focus points, the camera can usually guess where the main subject is. It's got this covered. With face detection on, it's even better. Well, unless there are two humans in my scene, which will it choose then, for instance? So instead, I go semi-automatic with autofocus and just use one focus point, a single focus point, right in the center of the frame. A focus point where I always know where it is, and so I focus and then recompose. Not very sophisticated, but it works every time. If I point that green rectangle on my chosen subject, the camera will focus on it. Now, if I do see the camera is struggling though, then I will intervene and switch to manual focus. Leave this to me, I'll take over, let me see if I can get the job done. And all's good. Now, this is an automation that I don't rely on at all. There is no semi-automatic mode here. Well, there is, I suppose. I could set the camera to auto white balance and allow the camera to choose the correct white balance setting, and then I finalize that in post-processing. I guess that is semi-automation for white balance here. I choose, however, to leave this on the sunny setting, the basic daylight setting of 5200 Kelvin. I've had this white balance setting on all my cameras ever since owning my very first digital camera, and every one since then. But why is that? Well, because any change in the temperature of the light, and I now see this on my camera's rear LCD screen in real time. the camera isn't able to correct it. If there's added blue in the light, if it gets cloudy for instance, then I see that. It isn't being corrected for me. If the light gets warmer, yep, I see that too. It isn't being cooled down by the camera, as it would otherwise see this as being incorrect. I can of course still change that later in post-processing as I shoot RAW, and that's semi-automation. All's good. But from this, by using the sunny white balance setting instead of full auto white balance, I have learnt about colour temperature of light and how that changes throughout the day. Actually, I learnt this back in my film days when we had coloured filters, but it's an important step to learn in mastering photography, I believe. How many of you are aware of how much the temperature does change throughout the day, I wonder? So that's automation. I don't think we should totally rely on it, not in our cameras or in our cars. And I do worry about the future of fully automated cars then and the driverless cars, and I can see errors happening. If it happens in my car on simple things, therefore I can only imagine the mistakes happening on a larger scale. And with our cameras offering us more and more automation with each new release, I again just see mistakes happening. So I say keep some control of your camera yourself and just let it assist you where it can, and thus avoiding any unnecessary errors in your photography. And you can hear more about this topic in a podcast I did as part of my E6 subscription. You can sign up to this on my website where you'll find full details of the content on offer. That was me working in semi-automatic mode there by mentioning E6 again, for you to consider subscribing. Goodbye.